All right.
Welcome back to the YouTube I took over.
All right, we're doing the Q&A, another Q&A episode, or as Justin likes to say, QUAH.
QUAH.
Bring on the question, Taylor, Doug.
Taylor, Doug, one of you guys?
Can you guys please do an episode on the advantages and disadvantages of yoga?
Yoga.
I like this
Why?
because there is a
Weren't
lot.
you going to get certified at one point?
I was.
That's right.
I actually paid for it and everything. I just never went to the
You look
test.
like
Just
a yoga
picturing
guy.
you in
It
yoga
was the
pants
dumbest
right
thing
now.
I ever did. I did it at the same time I was like going through this bulking phase. You know what it was though? I saw the opportunity. I was training. I was running all these boot camps. I had all these.
You're in a
soccer moms.
bulking phase and you thought of yoga.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, I needed it the most around that time. So that's okay. Let's talk about this. There's a lot of advantages and there is a lot of disadvantages.
There can be.
I think there's, I think it's like anything else when you go to the extreme with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if
If it's inappropriate for you.
I think yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, definitely. So hypermobility. Let's talk about hypermobility for a
yes.
second. Like
It's real.
the
Flexibility without strength and control is instability.
period. End of story. I have trained countless people who, both yoga instructors and people who do lots of yoga, and they come to me because they have one of the more common injuries I see with them, hip injuries, because they do all these hip opening movements, especially in yin type yoga classes where you're sitting in a stretch for long periods of time, but they don't ever connect to that new range of motion that they get, so they end up becoming unstable. So
Because a lot of times you find like the challenge is to get into these positions. And so half the time they're really trying to get their body to be able to get down into that position by any means necessary without really connecting to that and being able to get back out of the positions.
right.
Well, you're also doing it passively instead of intrinsically too. So that's the difference is you're using your body weight to kind of sink you into a stretch and they're teaching you to relax and breathe.
Now, this is true for some yoga classes, but not all, right?
Not all.
Yeah, so if you're doing like flow type classes, and if you're doing them right with a good yoga instructor, they will teach you to connect to the pose. They'll tell you to ground into the floor, to bring your feet together, to create tension within that range of motion, which is the right thing to do. Now, if you do yoga and you don't do that, if you sit in a stretch and you allow your joints to support you, or if you do yin yoga inappropriately, and what I mean by that is there's definitely a place for it, but if you do lots of that type of yoga where you're sitting these long stretches, you're gonna get a larger range of motion. You're definitely gonna improve your flexibility, but you're not connected to that new range of motion, so now you're unstable. So I'll give you an example. If I always walk around with my arm in this position all the time, always in this position and up, this position and up, and I never fully extend my arm, yes, my arm is not flexible, but if I increase the flexibility, it doesn't mean I have strength in that new range of motion. I'm not able to connect to the muscles within that range of motion, and that's when you get problems.
So that's a disadvantage.
That's
right?
a disadvantage.
So there's also some great advantages to actually doing yoga. In fact, I think incorporating it intermittently in a strength program is incredible.
Absolutely. I can't think of a single structured flexibility type program that's not individualized.
Right.
Okay, so nothing is better than individualized programming. In other words, if you're trying to work on mobility and flexibility, having a yoga instructor who's good come to your house and train just you is superior than taking a class. But for all intents and purposes, in terms of structured class type setting, yoga is one of the best things to improve functional flexibility.
Well,
if you do it right.
Isn't it yin yoga that's a little bit more parasympathetic focus, right? So you're really trying to then like calm your central nervous system
And just
down sit in it. So the restorative aspect of it is great.
Right?
Absolutely.
And the meditative side. But
meditative
the
side.
irony,
That's a great one, by the way.
The irony of it, though, is typically the people that gravitate towards it and do it the most need it the least, and those that need it the most avoid it. So that's the people that needed to restore, the people that needed to meditate, relax.
Good point.
Those people are the meathead bodybuilder guys, full intensity, high stress levels, and they are scared to death of yoga. And then the people that just love yoga, they're doing yoga all the time, they meditate. Those people are the people that need it the least.
Now, that's not to say that there isn't yoga classes that can hammer your body and overtrain you in typical American fashion. Yoga classes many times take the form of, or they try to take the form of strength classes or intensity. So you see all these power yoga classes where people are in there and they're like grinding through these poses, or trying to turn yoga into a hard strength training type
Or
workout.
how many times have you guys, I know I've done this a bunch of times where I've recommended a client that I want you to take a yoga class because I know that they have this, like some lawyer works 14-hour days, high stress, 6, 7
So
days.
what are they going to gravitate
like
towards?
Bikram yoga, or they do something aggressive.
Yeah,
right?
Super aggressive.
So those people, I think, that need to understand that too. Is that if you're a Type A personality, go, high stress level job all the time, then that restorative, meditative type of yoga is
That's right.
super beneficial.
I have the utmost respect for yoga. I've done it quite a few times. I'm not by any means a regular practitioner of yoga, but what I enjoy most about it is the centering effects. And I've taken great yoga classes. I've taken bad ones too. But the good ones give me an incredible feeling. I go in there, I'm doing my practice. The good instructors will tell you that it is your practice, not to try and be like anybody else, and to modify your positions if they feel uncomfortable. But it's a very different atmosphere and feel than most group exercise classes, which tend to be super intense.
Well,
hardcore.
and that's what I do respect is the fact that they've structured like activities to where we're focusing just on connecting to your body, because we can go through all these workouts. We're so disconnected to our body. Half the time we're just trying to move weight. We're trying to do and accomplish like X amount of reps, sets, whatever the program entails, if you even have programming. But most people are just kind of like going through based off of what I should be doing versus, really paying attention to what their body's communicating to them through the process.
Excellent.
A lot of the benefits from yoga we actually used in MAPS Prime Pro. I mean, that you want something that you talked about earlier about how it's great in a class setting, but it's still not individualized.
Prime Pro is individualized.
Right, and we take some things from animal flow, from yoga. There's a lot of different modalities that we use to create that program to get all the benefits that you get within yoga.
Now, I'll say this. If you are the typical super aggressive, tight, meathead type bodybuilder, I would suggest yin yoga classes, maybe once or twice a week to give you better ranges of motion. Do not lift weights immediately afterwards. It's something you should probably end your day with. For everybody else, I would say vinyasa flow, stay connected to your poses when you're doing them. And then the hot classes where you're in a room where it's 100 and something degrees and you're doing your poses, those you can do occasionally. You will find greater ranges of motion. Heat does depress the central nervous system. You can easily overdo those and you can find yourself in a little bit of trouble. So I would suggest those occasionally. As far as the power yoga and the strength yoga classes, if you enjoy doing those, nothing wrong, but there are much better ways of building strength. Resistance training is the king of strength builders. So if you're trying to build strength, I wouldn't do a strength yoga class. Right. I would lift weights, unless of course you're absolutely in love with yoga and that's the only way you'll work out, in which case I say something's better
than nothing.
And if you don't have the MAPS Prime program too, the other great option I think is Kinstretch. Kinstretch is incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely. Good point. So we should put some links to the programs in the bottom here. So look, check this out. Share this video with all of your yoga friends and all of your friends that you think need some yoga in their lives. Also, subscribe to this channel. We post new videos all the time. And finally, the questions that we pick for these episodes are in the comments. So if you want to ask us a question that we can answer on an episode like this one, put it in the comments.